there's ways to craft. That's where your branding person comes in. There's ways to craft that story to weed out the very specific things, make it more palatable or more sellable. That's where the craft comes in. That's where your branding director comes in to help you craft those stories. You don't just basically list your story, right? Somebody has to think about where's the point? What applies to the brand? How can we utilize that section of it? How do we show that in the about, on the website, in the marketing, on the social medias, like all those things. So it's simple, but it's not.
This is Let's Make Waves podcast. I'm your host, Rana Al-Basri Marwad, and I believe that we're all here to make waves. I created this podcast to help you build your brand by sharing with you tools, resources, and strategies to gain professional authority for better business opportunities. If you want to get unstuck, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. I have a treat for you this week. I'm so thrilled to bring to you a fascinating conversation I recently had with Michelle Balaun. She's an acclaimed international brand expert based out of Florida, USA. Now, Michelle has over 3 decades of experience in the fashion industry. Michelle has worked across diverse cultures and in different continents, from the Arctic Circle to Africa. What I love about Michelle is her unique perspective, honed during her 15 years as an American expat living in Europe, which brings a wealth of insight into the intricate world of branding. Now, during our conversation, Michelle shares her belief that there's no size-fits-all solution when it comes to branding. Instead, she emphasizes the importance of a personalized approach that considers factors such as culture, community, and diversity, of course. Now, whether you are a new entrepreneur or a seasoned business owner, Michelle's expertise in this episode will offer invaluable lessons for anyone who is navigating this world of branding and marketing. I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's dive into the highlights of our discussion, my discussion with Michelle, and I really hope that you enjoy the episode this week. Michelle, there's something on your website I absolutely loved. I wanna ask you about it.
Okay.
You said, and I quote, one thing I've learned from working with luxury brands is finding the right fit. This is important. This is how I feel about branding for business. I believe in a couture style approach rather than a cookie cutter formula. Everyone's business is unique. Like the designers in high fashion houses, translating an idea into the right fit is an art. This is what I emulate and create for my clients. I love this, and I love how you kind of address this cookie cutter formulas out there.
Right.
Why are the cookie cutter formulas detrimental for anybody who wants to build a brand?
Because people want to make money quick. And they think that if they can make a formula and roll it out to as many people as possible, they'll just make a lot of money. And that is why it doesn't work. It's like if someone does buy into it, they probably get something which is very unsatisfying and very not them. And then the next time they're burned and they take more time and when they're choosing a coach or whatever. But these quick fix, just follow these 10 steps, whether you are a manufacturing company, whether you're a coaching company, whether you're a jewelry producing company, whether you're a spa, it doesn't make any sense. How can you apply the same exact steps to all these different businesses?
So what you're saying is that there are some fundamentals in brand,
Sure.
but the fundamentals are just a small part of what exactly a particular business would need to build. Yeah.
So back in the day when there was couture, and there was a reason why fashion had that, was you would go to a fashion show and you would say, oh, I like number 3. And so they would take number 3 and they would measure you and then make it and then fit number 3 to you so that the shoulders fit correctly, that the arm length was correct. And then we went into the attitude of RTW, which is ready to wear. There's your cookie cutter. The cookie cutter is you have to go to the rack, pull something off the rack and put it on and it fits. It never will, because no one is exactly the same. Their bodies are different. So it's the same for businesses. It's like we need to go back to the day where you went to the couture fashion show, chose number 3 or number 5 or 17, and then we make it to see if it fits you and your body or your brand. Your brand and your body are the same thing, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the thing I have about cookie cutters and applying the exact same method to everyone. There are steps, obviously. Every jacket has an opening, has 2 places for arms, has a closing, has a collar or no collar, So yes, there are specific things. We're not reinventing the wheel here. There are some normal specifics that are involved.
Yeah.
But how they're approached, it's different. If you're living in the Arctic Circle, you need wool. And if you're living
Exactly.
in Africa, you want linen, right? So, and I do kind of preface everything towards fashion, because that is the many, many years of experience that I have. Not that I'm limited to fashion.
Yes, of course. And what's really nice that you're giving it, the example of fashion is that it makes sense. You're kind of simplifying the idea to make sense. So based on this,
Mhm.
and because we want to demystify, building a brand, what would you say is the main heartbeat of a brand? Let's start from the heart and then we'll go to
Okay,
the rest of the body.
sure. So a perfect example is what I just did. I
Mm,
made a story. I didn't give you some technical method of doing something. I gave you a story that stuck in your brain
y-
that made it easy to understand. And so the heartbeat of any brand is the story.
So it's not the
Period.
mission statement. It's not,
That's part of it. That's part of the
that's
story.
part of it. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. So the story is why. Why you? Why now? So this whole why question, which is your vision statement, your mission statement, your niche, your call to action, what are you really selling? That kind of thing. That's the heart.
Mm,
Because without that, we don't know which direction to go. Like what I think is always so interesting, no matter who I work with, like, first of all, when they meet me, like, oh, don't look at my website. I haven't changed it in 10 years. You're like,
true.
okay, well, great.
True.
And, but the thing is, I'll say, well, what do you really sell? And we're all selling something. But if you are selling a solution to a problem, you are much more accepted immediately into somebody's life,
Mm,
as opposed to, let me sell you this great product deal because la la, I have 30 years, blah la, I have an MBA, blah blah, I have all this pedigree behind me, which
mm.
I do not have an MBA, by the way. I'm very unique. Don't ask questions.
Yes, you
So,
are.
but the thing is, it's this whole, the heart of it is the story, and the story involves the about, the mission, the thing. And like, once that's all figured out, and that's like step 1, and that's what people don't understand when they're like, oh, branding expert, so you do logos and websites and the color, and it's like, that's like steps 8, 9, 10.
Mm,
The most important thing to nail down first is, can I swear on this? Is WTF? Like, what are you doing?
what are you
Right?
doing?
Like, what are you doing? What is the purpose? What's the why? Why are we here? What are you selling and how?
Yeah, and I think when they answer that question, I mean, you tell me from the so many clients you've worked with, when you start asking them these questions, this is where if they're decided to go into business because of something that they are passionate about and they have experience in, or is it just like a quick,
So I've had various
everybody's selling something, so I'm going to sell it too. I'm
I've
going to
had
sell that
various
too.
experiences where
Yeah.
there are people who have a definite passion and who just need direction. I have also had experiences where someone had the money, the support, the background, they were ready to sell, they already started doing things, but they had there was nothing, there was no heart, there was nothing there. It was like, I have no idea. I just wanted to make money, and oh, I get it. I need to figure this stuff out first. So I've seen it both ways, where if they jump the gun or if they have a lot of support behind them, then they think, oh, it's easy. It's like you're making a cake. You put all
Mm.
the ingredients in, you mix it up, and boom, you have a cake. Well, if you've baked, there's science, right? It's very
Yes.
careful. It can be a really shitty cake or it can be a good cake.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's how I equate that.
I wanted to, to talk more about when you said the story, the why. Why is it so difficult for someone to answer that question? I mean, even as a business owner who's been, let's say, in business for a couple of years, and then they had the roadblock that you were talking about. Why why is it always a difficult situation to answer that question? And usually, what are the things that people should think about to basically
Right,
go over that hurdle, and then the process of, okay,
right,
now let's build this
right.
beautiful jacket now.
Yeah. So number one, they don't want it to be about themselves. They get very shy all of a sudden and they're like, but I don't want it's not because of me. Do you really think Gwyneth Paltrow of Goop said, oh, it's not because of me? She named a candle the JJ. So it's like, that's really her, right? So it's kind of like you have to be brave enough or willing enough to represent yourself as a brand in the brand. And if it's a company that, so you have a pseudo person, right?
Oh,
That
yes.
is in
Yeah.
front of that, right? So like if it's a very big company, let's pick Coca-Cola or McDonald's or something like that. So you have Ronald McDonald, or you have like somebody representing Coke, right?
Yes.
So even a large company tries to put a personal face on their brand.
Yeah, they
And
humanize the brand. They want to
exactly,
humanize it. Yeah.
exactly. So it's kind of when you scale down to a smaller size, mid-sized business, large business, or whatever, the person behind it wants to stay hidden. They don't want to be up front. Okay, fine. Then an avatar must be created, right, to
Mm.
represent that brand. But somebody's got to stand up and say, this is what we're selling.
Mm.
Because back in the day when we lived in shops, we lived over the shop below was the bakery or the seamstress or the hat maker or whatever. You knew those people live there, they represent their kids, their family, their extended family. Everybody was in that one unit, and you knew these people and you trusted these people, and you gave them your money or your wares in exchange for a product. So we're still doing that, but on a different scale. And without that personal shadow, I
Mhm.
guess, behind the shadow, touch, whatever, it doesn't work. We don't feel trust when we buy something. Like when you are at midnight and you take your phone. Oh gosh, I don't have my phone with me. So you have your iPad out and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're scrolling, and all of a sudden there's that outfit you've seen 25 times in social media and you think, it's really pretty, I'm gonna buy it. And you click and it's $39 or something ridiculous, right? So you click it. When it comes, it is literally a piece of parachute nylon that is like, you're like, why did I do this? Like, because and there's nowhere to return it. There's nothing to do with it. You bought it because you had an emotional connection to it, right? There was a story. They had a beautiful ad. They had the fabrics flapping in the wind. That's a story, right? They had the girl and the way that she was wearing it, the way she was walking it. That's a story. So it will motivate you, but I will never rebuy because I lost trust, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it all comes down to trusting the product that you're buying. I mean, you don't buy anything for your kids that you don't trust,
Absolutely. Of course.
right? So that's kind of meshed together in there.
Yeah. So what you're telling me here is that it all starts from the story. That's the core. And it is because of that story that we build trust with the customer, the client, and
Mhm.
that trust will give them the confidence to buy from us. So
Yeah.
let's go back to the story. What makes a good story? Like, how can you say, oh, that's a good story?
Emotion.
Mm.
So how you can move someone with emotion, and don't discount the negative story.
What do you mean? Tell me more.
Struggle. People love to see someone who has struggled. Like if you show up and you say, "Oh, well, I'm a trust fund baby. I got 10 million to start this business. I'm really involved. I really approve of this. I think it's great. It's sustainable. It's this and that." And everyone goes, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah,
Next. Right?
exactly.
It's like
No.
if you can show up and show your struggle, like, I was born, la, 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 la. It's like whatever the story is, and you don't have to get too detailed with it, but just as amazing that negative messaging, like showing the pain point in a message, works a lot better than trying to show someone the positive, because as humans we immediately default to negative, right? We immediately, it's like, tomorrow I have a big event, I'm sure it's going to rain, right? We're negative, like, oh, I just ate that bagel, I'm sure I'm going to gain 10 pounds. It's like we right away default to negative. So showing that negative is a part of humanity, of being a person. And so you can show that story of that struggle that you had, and that led you to your why, and that led you to what you're doing. And that really it motivates people. Like if you have a struggle that you went through, like especially if you're also doing philanthropy within your brand,
Mm.
which is I recommend for anybody who's like, I feel guilty about making money. Okay, let's stop that right there, right? So
Yes, please. Let's talk
yeah,
about it.
you can do wonderful things with your money. You don't have to put it in your pocket and then go to the moon with Jeff Bezos. You can actually do something good with your money, right? You
Mm.
can pick something that's near and dear to your heart and support that, or support someone in your life, or support someone in your neighborhood, or, there's things you can do with that money. So never be ashamed or worried about investing and making that money. When you have this negative message, right? Which is, are you not sleeping at night? Wow, what a great post to have show up at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Because every single person is like, yep, that's me.
Yeah.
And you could sell all those sleep aids at that time. You could sell like sheets, you could sell candles, you could sell, like there's so many things you can do, because we all have the same issues, right? We're all the same. We all just want to have a cup of coffee in the morning and then go home, watch TV, put your feet up. It's
Yeah.
like
It's the
every
same.
single person on earth just wants to do that. There's no difference. So that negative message of how, like, are you handling, do you have a flat tire, or like things like that stop people in their tracks better than be prepared not to have a flat tire by always having Jim Dandy in the car, like, or whatever, right? It's more of direct negative, not messaging, but a negative spin on what you're saying. It's like, what's the pain?
What's
What's
the
the
pain?
pain point you're trying to solve, right?
Yeah.
And pain is negative, basically.
And if you're a business owner who didn't struggle for the pain that you're selling, the solution
And
to
you
the
don't,
pain that you're
yeah, you
selling.
don't have to look too far for
You
the
don't
struggle.
exactly. Yeah.
It's not like you have to say, like, I chopped my way through the woods and then became whatever. It's like there's ways to craft. That's where your branding person comes in. There's ways to craft that story to weed out the very specific things, make it more palatable or more sellable. That's where the craft comes in. That's where your branding director comes in to help you craft those stories. You don't just basically list your story, right? Somebody has to think about where's the point, what applies to the brand, how can we utilize that section of it, how do we show that in the about, on the website, in the marketing, on the social medias, like all those things. So it's simple, but it's not,
Yeah,
right?
and if a person is not very articulate in terms of
Well,
writing or saying.
second languages. Like I lived in Europe for a long time. I speak German, but do not ask me to write. Of course, now it's easier with all the AI
Yeah,
stuff and everything. But when you have to express yourself in a second language, which I fully understand because I lived it, I did not learn as a child this language. I learned it in my 30s. So when people say they can't learn anymore, that's garbage. Of course you can. So it's kind of like when you've been in another place that you are, you're in a situation you want to order and you can't talk to the waitress and tell her what you want or ask something, or that's very frustrating. So how do you learn? Like if you're trying to express, especially if you're a business in another country, not only do you have to learn how to express your story for you, but you have to express that story in the culture that you're selling, right? Because every culture is different. I can use Germany as an example. Like if I'm teaching someone about speaking, and I'm telling the German to come to America to do a speech, I'm going to tell them to smile with teeth a lot. If I'm teaching an American to speak in Germany, I'm going to say, please do not smile. Because they think that's not, yeah. It's like it's not that they're not serious. It's not a serious point. It's a cultural feeling. So you have to understand the culture that you're selling to. You have to understand the culture, what the culture norms are. Like think about brands. Like when you really are working on a big brand, right? You have to make a cultural decision. What is this name in the top 10 languages? What are the symbols we're using in the top 10 countries? Like you have to, I really look at these things because there's always those stories of like, you did something and then in Chinese, it turns out that you're telling them
very offensive or something like that.
Very nasty, right? So it's like, if you are going to do international business, you also have to consider, well, how am I going to do that? Well, if the culture is like, this is the European continent, this is the American content, this is the Asian content, like you have to then culturalize the marketing for those countries. When I worked in fashion and the brand that I worked for, we did this giant photo shoot, and she did it. She had like this military kind of like red jacket with gold braiding and stuff, and it was like in front of a steam train in the winter with snow. And I have customers in Australia, right? And I'm like, here's your ad for Vogue Australia, and they're like, it's not winter here. It's like, we will look ridiculous if we put this ad in here now. It's spring. Like, how can you give me a winter ad and it's spring? So it's like, in the American was like, no, sorry, that's your ad for this month. You got to do it. It's like, no.
No, exactly.
Please no. Please no. So it's just simple things like that if people don't even think about. Like, we do have a hemisphere, right? And when you
turn it, it's the
hemisphere, you have to be considerate of what's happening in different places. And that's what's so wonderful about the world we live in, because two things can be true at the same time. You can have summer happening and you can have winter happening at the same time. Right? And that's what people don't understand. You can have light and you can have dark at the same time, because sometimes it's night and sometimes it's day happening at the same time. So it's a beautiful example of the yin and yang that we always have to look at, because when one thing is true, the other thing can be true as well.
True. Okay, so Michelle, so we started with the story. We started with the concept of, this is the heartbeat of your brand, your story. And the story is a little bit much more than you it is actually about the pain point. It is actually about, we're not even talking the product or the service yet.
Not even yet.
Not even there yet. So it's all about understanding a particular pain point. Maybe if there was a personal experience in it, let's talk about that as well, because it kind of validates that this thing is existent. If there isn't any personal, I'm just like recapping, if there isn't any personal experience, then I'm sure there's a lot of examples out there in the market that made you think of this brand idea. Now, is it from this, the core, which again is the story, is where the next step for any business to start thinking about, okay, so if that is my story, then my mission, and this is where the mission is to, and then you kind of take that out of the story,
Extrapolate that.
or
Exactly. You can
does the
extrapolate that
mission
out.
doesn't work, like it's something that is in a different silos from.
Right. So mission vision statements. So I'm highly allergic to corporate speak.
Yeah.
So when I see these mission statements that are like, and they have like 10, 15-letter words in them, and it's like about value, blah, blah. It's like nobody talks like that. Nobody knows what you're saying. They'll all look at you and go, "Oh, that's awesome." It's not true. And that's kind of I'm the truth teller. I am the direct one. I will look at it and I'll go, "Huh, what does that mean?" And they'll be like, well, I'm like, "Go ahead, explain it to me in like 5 words." And they can't, because it means nothing. They've collected a bunch of corporate speak words, mixed them in a nice combination, and put that up as the mission statement because it sounds very noble. So I'm about finding that truth point and trying to discover how to express that. So when they have all of these things, there's usually an aha moment, right? Once they've gone through this process and we've gone through the stories, and we find, and because it will definitely start to show you a direction. Like, it's amazing, the direction. It's really amazing. It happens magically because you're talking about it so much. Nobody spends any time talking about this stuff because they're all like, productivity. What did we make today? We didn't make anything. We're creating an idea. A brand is an idea. You cannot make a brand. You have to create it. And just like a baby takes 9 months to create, like all the parts don't zap on at one time, they grow individually. And you're doing the same thing with a brand, right? So you want to create the atmosphere for the proper growth of this brand. Then the mission and the vision will come out of that. It might not have anything to do with where they started. They'll all of a sudden find, oh, you know what? It's really in our heart to do this for our customer. We want to be the one that provides them the best widget that can unlock whatever, right? So it's a growth process, and the information comes out of the creative process. And just like a baby, we'll birth it in like, it's like you have to slow, and that's the other thing. Like, I slow things down. People want to go boom, 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 boom. It's like, if you don't slow it down, you miss the growth. You can push forward. Sure, you want an emergency brand? We can do that in 5 minutes. It's going to look like, and it's not going to last, and it's not going to be effective. The longer you give yourself to create the right brand, and I hate to throw this in there, brands are not static. They are
Exactly. I was going to ask you.
all the time.
Yeah, the baby's born, but it's still growing.
It's still growing, and so is every brand. And if you take a walk down memory lane with logos, for instance, I mean, even Twitter had a cartoon bird for. Do you even remember that face?
I remember
that. Bird. It wasn't this little. Now it's X. It's like, so you can look at the strategy of a brand by following its logo, right? You can see how they were trying to be more slick, they were trying to be more homey, they were trying to be more, it's like you can see a brand's evolution by looking at their logo history.
So do you experience, or did you experience with your clients, the pushback between, like, you're putting so much effort on the brand, let's just focus on the product, I mean, we just need to sell this? What would you say to explain, because I know this is really important, but that if we don't build that brand, if we don't have that story where you were telling us how it kind of evolves with you, that will impact the product.
Right. So I usually would have a disclaimer at that point saying, okay, so what you're saying is, and I am super practical. That's the other part of it. Like, I am not like ivory tower, like, oh, it has to be this frenetic, like it has to be connected to like Mozart or something. No, I'm very practical. If you already have X, Y, and Z, and we need to use it because what business owner wants to spend more money, right?
Mm.
So it's like, if this is what I have to utilize and we only have this much time, then this is what we can do short term. And I use those words heavily,
Okay.
short term. However, in the long term, we need to plan for the evolution, another word I use a lot, the evolution of this short term solution. I can get you, I can put the fire out, I can dig you out of the hole, but if you would like to have a nice sustainable home to live in, we
Yes,
need
and a
to do the work.
sustainable business that will grow. Yeah.
Exactly. We need to do the work.
We
Right.
need to do the work.
Yeah.
So here we are. We have a great brand story.
Mm.
And for the longest time, one of the things that was out there was like, oh, when you're talking about a brand, you spoke about this in the beginning. Oh, you're talking about the brand, it's the logo.
Yeah.
So how does this baby evolve, or how does the concept as we're cooking, the
Mm.
mission comes out, and it's a process. There's a strategy behind it. Then we go into the visuals of that story. Like how do we evolve to the visuals of the story? What's the strategy behind something like that? What would you say?
Okay. Okay. So usually when you're working on the logo,
Mm,
it also involves colors and it also involves fonts. So it involves what I call the image situation. Like, what is your image view? So is it vintage? Is it rustic? Is it classy? Is it luxury? Is it, am I talking about like a gingham curtains blowing in the wind with the daffodils in the background, or am I talking about a black website with gold embossed on it? Okay, so here's a brand that I am not connected with. This is not an ad. Look up lastcrumb.com.
okay.
They sell cookies for $140 a dozen.
Wow.
It
Why?
comes in a very nice, because they can. It comes in a very nice black box. The flavors are amazing, but their branding is so unique. So April Fools, they put out an ad on April 1st for $12,000 for a box of cookies. There was like one or two people that were smart enough to put April Fool in the coupon box, just thought of it, and got the cookies for like $90.
Wow.
So it's like there's so many things that you can do. They are a ultra luxury brand, but very um radical, right? They're
Mm.
hostile. They're hostile cookie makers. They're kids in sweats and they're not fancy at all, but they have this amazing product that they're selling.
And the clients are very well to put that price
You
bracket.
get 6 cookies for $90. Think of how many like people are buying it just because if you have $90, you'll buy it, right? It's like, if it's only $90, you spend $90 on, whatever.
Yeah.
So it is lastcrumb.com. Go check them out. I'd love to give them a bump. I think they're brilliant. I think they're
Oh my
brilliant. Stuff
God.
like that. So that is a super unique. You can go in there. There's a product that someone is selling. They made up a story. Sometimes the stories don't have to be true 100%. You can budge them a lot, right? But there's some core of it that's true,
Mm.
right?
Something
And
inspirational, you mean?
yeah,
Something that could, okay.
exactly. And then you can go forward on that, and like it's $140 for a dozen cookies.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
But
the flavors are amazing, and they're big cookies, and they're like there's everything good about them. Like I'm sure you feel very satisfied when you eat your $15 cookie. But I mean, here in Boca, so we have these new brands all the time, and there's like this cookie store, and one cookie is like $9.
wow.
One
Yeah.
chocolate chip cookie, and it's like filled or some garbage like that. I don't know. It like makes your teeth hurt when you eat it. It's so sweet. Like you can take a bite of it. But
Okay.
it's like $9, $10. It's like, so there you have it. They're just adding shipping, it's in the pretty box.
That's amazing. So what you're saying is that the story would do you like, are you telling us that when you put that brand story, the
Yeah.
whole strategy,
Yeah.
it will help you actually
Yeah.
humanize when you're building the image
Yeah,
or the visual of
absolutely.
the
So yeah, exactly. So what did they do? They set on black boxes. So they have black as as their main signature color. And then they have like a smiley face that have X's for eyes. And that's basically their whole thing. So their image thing. So every once in a while, the kids will show, I call them kids. They're probably 40, right? They'll show up in their hoodies and their t-shirts, and they'll be very, radical and stuff. But then you'll have all this other slick branding. It's very, what's the word I want? I don't want the word radical. It's
Avant-garde?
it's grittier than that.
Mm.
It's grittier than that. It's not expected if you're selling $140 box of cookies.
No. No.
There's no pampering here. It's just like, they're effing good. That's the thing. They're like, bro, do it. I'm sure there's all the kids on the mountains right now skiing last days of ski that are probably buying boxes of these cookies, right? Because it's cool. That's why we're not buying, excuse me, first world problems. We're not buying things because we're hungry. We're not buying things because we're naked and cold. We're not buying things because we don't have a roof over our head. We're not buying things because we don't have a $40,000, $50,000 car sitting in the driveway, right? We're buying things for entertainment purposes. When I sold couture and I'm selling, a black knit skirt, it's just because it had a name and a brand. Because you could buy that for $1 and not $500 and not $1,000. It's the same. You can do the same thing if you go and buy like an Armani t-shirt. Yeah, it's nice fabric, but you can also buy one at Target.
Yeah, exactly. But people pay for that. This is the story.
Okay, how about a bottle of water? How about a bottle of water? So you buy a plastic bottle of water at the grocery store, it's $1. You buy a plastic bottle of water at Starbucks, it's like $3.99, $4.75, or some crazy price like that. You're at the airport, you need a bottle of water. Oh, you're going to pay $7.50 for that.
Yes.
So it's a bottle of water. It's the same bottle of water. It's location and like where you're at and how you're packaging it. When you go to the airport, you expect to pay that price for that bottle of water. Why?
Exactly.
We taught you that. Branding taught you that. It's a teaching process.
Yeah. Can you kind of elaborate
more? Too many things.
Yeah.
Too many stories.
Let's go back to that. So let's go back to the part where, because it's really important, the connection. I wanted to make the connection of the story that you're building, because the whole thing is about the heartbeat of the brand. So the story is the heartbeat. So how can this heart starts helping you develop this body? So you were telling me about the image in terms of it is from the story that we kind of start putting a personality to the brand. You were saying things like,
so when you have the logo and you have like you're kind of set into what kind of an image you're going for, right? Okay. That's when you have to start doing some image work, which means mood board sounds so blasé, right? They're not mood boards. They're literally like pictures and images and like directions and feelings and all these things. So we go through these different processes to find the visual identity. So a logo is the visual identity of a brand, but your images also are, what are the visual identity of this brand? Because you don't want to put your logo on everything. Yeah, that's old timey.
Yeah.
That's antique. So people need to look at that ad, post, whatever you want to call it. It's an ad, right? They need to look at whatever you're producing social media wise or on your website and recognize it immediately without the logo, without any words. They need to feel it right away. So right now you're looking at me and what do you see? You see this pink, orange, kind of big earrings, like crazy glasses, like that is part of the brand. And if you see all my stuff, you can look at something and go, that's probably Michelle. You don't even need to look. You're like, oh, that's Michelle, right? So that's how the brand works. So in the development part, before we start really nailing down, here's your logo, here's your 2 fonts, here's your color palette with the hex codes. Like before we get down to the the nails and hammers and brass tacks, um, you have all these swirling. This is back to the baby growing, right?
Growing, yes.
It's like you have all these swirling identities that you have to choose a path. So when people have to choose a path, they freak out. Number one, they freak out. Number two, they freeze. Number two, they don't want to do it.
Yes.
What are we on? Number four, they won't go, right? Or they'll pick a path that seems like the path they should choose, right? Financial advisors, for example, love them to death. Blue website, a lot of people in suits shaking hands.
Yes, or
A lot
behind
of
the desk.
computer image with pen and fountain pen. Like, okay, there are fountain pens in Europe. I know that, but like in America, people don't even know what a fountain pen is. They're like, what is that? So it's like those images. Immediately, people are like, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you. Like it's showing me all the negatives of your business. So right away, I want to change that image. So for example, I have a financial advisor who happens to also be a nurse.
Oh, wow.
And she wants to make nurses rich. So that's what we went with, be a rich nurse, right?
That's
So all of her things were like tongue in cheek, like, take the temperature down on your finances. You call the shots on your finances. Like things like that were cute and clever because her niche market is specifically nurses. And that's the other thing that is niche, which is also image direction. If you sell to everyone, you sell to no one. We all know that. We can say that by heart, right? People also freak out when choosing the path for the images. They also freak out with the path for the niche. People who fall in love with you will buy from you, regardless of what your niche is. But you need to have a niche to be known for something that is part of the brand, right?
Yeah, and this is part of the story. That's the
yes, yeah. You can trace it backwards, right? You can trace it forwards. So it's kind of like the images find you and you immediately go, yeah, this is the way I like this. This is the way we go. It takes the time of breaking them down by the process that we go through and the 9 months of having the baby, right? The process of going through this branding thing, I've broken them to the point where they go, okay, yes, I'll look at it. Yes, I'll think about it. It's like, because you have to retrain that automatic finances, blue, or, ecological things have to be green, if it's a hospital or if it's a soothing and calm act, show an ocean. If I'm I love the coaches with the person on the mountain with their hands up in the air.
Success and you've achievement.
Give me 3 minutes, I'll pull up 25 sites. They will all look the same. It's like, why? So, and then I love, like, also coaching. There's no picture of them. If I'm going to have
I know there's a lot of that. Yes.
I'm going to have a personal coach. Dude, show your picture.
Which you go back to that point. That's the first thing you've mentioned. Your picture, your story, your pain.
It's that personal face connected to the brand. So it's all, it's a lot of chicken and egg thing. What do you do? It's like a lot of stuff simultaneously happens. Depending. It's, again, you don't put your foot in the river in the same place twice. So things are always moving. So if I work with somebody and I work with them for 2 weeks and they go on a vacation or something, they come back after a month, things have changed. They've changed. Their understanding of what they're doing has changed. So we always have to accept, like, I've had things where due to business travel, we've had to extend and where we started, where's my finger? Where we started and where we stopped it was like lesson 8. We got to, oh my God, it's all wrong. Here's what we want to do. That isn't bad. It's wonderful because it took that time to really find this. And when they got this, they were like, this.
And it was
This.
an easier process after that because
Almost.
it's
It was like
clarity.
done in 5 minutes
Yeah, yeah.
because it was this. It was like finally this, because you have to fight all the training we have of how you should represent yourself. And especially if I'm dealing with women clients, they're less flexible in being open to not being predictable, right? So it's like, but I should. No, let's try and throw the shoulds out. So it the process is always different. That's where we go back to not a cookie cutter. How can
Mm.
you say that it will only take you in 5 quick lessons, we can create your brand? It's like, no, maybe not. It
Maybe
depends.
not. Yeah.
And if I tell everyone all the time, it depends, then nobody will be interested. I have to give more of a story, an example, and walk them, because it's a hand-holding process to walk someone through it, whether they are a single entrepreneur or a business staff that which is more difficult, because unless you have a decision maker in the room, it gets a lot of, well, let's show this to everyone and get their opinion.
Yeah.
I immediately ask, like, who's the decision maker?
Yeah.
Because we're not doing this by vote. Okay. This is not a brand is not a democracy.
No, it doesn't work that way.
No, somebody has
Michelle,
to decide.
I find a common point in this. I love how you say you can always trace it to,
Yeah.
front and you can trace it back.
Yeah.
There's a common point, a theme. I don't know. This is what I got from what you said. And that is because we have that, the brand story, and then how you build the,
Yeah.
the human of the brand.
Yeah.
So the colors, the logo, and everything. And from there, it's, we're going to
Right.
go into content and all of
Right.
that.
Ooh,
I
content.
think,
One of my
yeah,
favorite
but
things.
but I feel like the common thread so far, and I have a feeling it will go forward also with that common thread, is clarity. So it all
Oh, sure.
starts with clarity. And yeah, do you?
This of course, this whole process is clarity, right? This whole process is examining through a very narrow magnifying glass or microscope to see exactly what it is. And right away, if somebody has 10 products, I'm going to take them down to one. It's like we have to get small first. You have to do it right with one thing first. Then you can add stuff. But if you right away start with a multitude of things, it's harder. It's not impossible. It just has to have a different form. There are certain things that get grouped. We're going to do this later. We're going to do that one later. We're going to do, this is where we're focusing now. So especially if it's an existing brand that has multiple
Services or products.
different, products or areas of interest or whatever that they're doing. So that's a little bit more complicated, right? But clarity goes back to mission statement, right? It goes back to mission statement. Like that is, I love to do this. So your mission statement is your mirror.
Yeah.
You have to hold it up and it's like, is this part of the mission statement? It isn't. Okay, then we're not doing it. It's like, it's literally, if it doesn't fit in these parameters, I put it in something called the evolve file. There are no bad ideas. They're just ideas for later. So any idea that you have for your business, perfect, excellent. Never throw it away. Put it in a notebook. It's not something that we have to incorporate or act on immediately. Because we all, like, especially if you're someone who's really creative and you have, and then we could do this, and then we could do this, and we could do that. And like, yes. Don't ever stop someone when they're spitting ideas. Just record them and be like,
put
this
them
is
in the
really
folder.
good. This is really good. We'll save that for next year. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like that, but I want to do it now. It's like, okay,
The foundation is not there.
Can you drive with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake at the same time? You can't. You can only do one thing. So pick, do you want to stop or do you want to go? So if you want to go, we go with one foot. So we pick one way. It's the only way.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that's the thing. It's not like it has to be one space. It can be anything. There are no wrong decisions. There are no wrong ways. They're just different paths at different times.
I agree. And I think the clarity would also help. I mean, you gave the example of women entrepreneurs. It will help to steer away from the stereotype. The finance person who is sitting in the suit with the pictures, the images, and the shaking hands. The clarity will help you to kind of put the visual thing in a very different way, basically an attractive
Well, and don't forget, the internet has evolved, right?
way.
So if
Yes.
I go back to in 2005, when I came back to the United States, the internet was a very specific way.
Mm.
And we would write our abouts, even though we were solopreneurs, we would write, we can help you. Our staff is ready to accompany, la, 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 la. We made it sound like we were 10 people because it still was not permitted or trusted to have one person doing things. Evolution happened.
Yeah.
COVID happened, where now people can show up on a call in their pajamas. Like I am wearing sweatpants, I will admit. Right? So it's like we have evolved to the point where if I see an about page of like a speaker or a keynote speaker and she's got the blue suit and the like, and it's all this corporate speak on there, and then you have her about, which is like in the third person. It's not even her talking, it's the third person, like, oh, and she won her awards for blah blah blah, and you're like, yeah, whatever. There's nothing. It's dated. It's not how we communicate now, right? And it's not how we choose or represent ourselves. And getting out of that corporate speak, I am the big buster of corporate speak. As soon as I hear, oh, there's so many really good ones on on Instagram. The one girl who does like the HR person.
Oh,
my God,
yes.
she's hilarious.
Yes,
She is hilarious. So it's like, it's funny because people still talk like that, right? They still act like, they still have these corporate lines of garbage they spew. And is there someone for that customer? Maybe. Do I want to be a part of that? No, that's not who I am. And that's the other thing. It's like, you are like, I am not for everyone. Everybody has their matching partner to what they need. So am I the right answer for every brand? No, definitely not. Am I the right answer for brands who understand me? Absolutely. Right. So it's that predictive. It goes back to, I have to be this. If I'm a keynote speaker, it has to look a certain way. Go look at some of the men's keynote speakers. They'll be in a pair of Nikes with jeans and a t-shirt doing their keynote, not a blue buttoned up suit acting like you're some sort of HR professional that we all make fun of secretly.
Michelle, there's this thing that you also, when we go back to the statement that I started with when we first started our chat, which is about the cookie cutter versus the couture. You said that some of the things, yes, there are foundational stuff, sure, but because every brand is unique, then the process and everything must be different. You have a process as well. There is the unique side of it, but there's also kind of a sequence that you think is a good sequence. So I love, I'm going to quote you for that. You say,
oh, good.
yeah, you say your brand, it's your work, it's your product, and it's uniquely yours. So finding the right story and strategy is the right thing. So you usually follow an outline. That is, you start with the core, then you start with the story, then you have the look, then the image, then the last thing would be website, social, email, and special.
Right.
So now that we've done the core, we've done the story, how do we,
the images.
And the image, but there's this, it's like, it's so, I feel, from the clients that I work with, it's crossing that bridge from the from the words or the behind the scenes in terms of building the core to actually now becoming the outside part, which is the image, the social, the communication.
Expressing those things.
That's
So
that
expressing
bridge
the things.
is, yeah, there.
So
Not a lot of people see the connection and the bridge
right. So
there.
that would be content, right?
Yeah.
Content. Yeah. So first of all, you have an enormous amount of content on your website that we've just worked through, right? We have your about, the story, the things, and most people make the mistake of taking an entire page and making that the post instead of breaking it into very small pieces. Because when we're on this thing, we're zooming through, like we want to see 3 seconds, like we are jaded at this point, right? So you have to make them in very small bites of expression that someone looks at and goes, oh, that was interesting. And they need to, it used to be like people need to see you 3 times, then it was like 7 times. I think it's now up to like 15 times or something like that before they will even stop and go look at your website. So people have to kind of see you, understand you, hear what you're doing before you ever put out, please buy this, right? The please buy this has to be so hidden. And a year later, I mean, there needs to be for a new brand, especially a lot of trust building, a lot of image building, and the content. So the content isn't as scary as everyone thinks it is. It starts out with I say, okay, let's do content buckets, right? So give me 10 topics that apply to your product or your brand or whatever. So if you give me those 10, then within those 10, I say, okay, now give me 10 titles underneath that one topic. And then you give me 10, right? Now you have 50 weeks of content. That's a year.
That's a year. Yeah.
It's a year. So, and things happen within a year that you can build on. Like you could have done stuff for the eclipse, right? There were people who had like Oreos that were moving on and off the white cream.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Then there was like, so, and there were people who were doing like, they would stand in front of each other and do this, so many cute things, like all the, so that you have a base content that you've planned out and you've scheduled. Then you have the in the moment content where you can add things that are happening now in the world, right? So it's like it's a game. It's not hard. It's like it is a bit Chinese checkers on 3 levels, right? But once you see how easy it can be and unfrightening and not monstrous. It's not like I'm requiring, you don't have to write an 8,000 page summary on each topic.
Yeah.
Right. So they look at it at the end and they're like, oh my God, this is a whole year content right here.
And they've done most of the work. You've done the core work in the beginning, which is the story. So a lot of it comes
to the image. Then we talk about, then we also have to talk about photo shoots. Like you need to be in the pictures in your stuff, right? You need to put your face there. So I am not one I'm more iconic than I am trying to be pretty. So I do pretty crazy photo shoots. Luckily, my photographer understands me. And when I come to her with wild ideas, she's like, okay, let's try it.
Let's have fun.
Yeah. Like the one we did, we used this Alice in Wonderland filter where my head is like really stretched. It's like, it was a weird, it's like I like to try artistically a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So, and you'll notice I have long hair, I have short hair, I have long hair, I have short hair. I have like, I don't have a specific look, but it's always the brand. Regardless of what picture you see me in, it somehow makes sense.
Yes.
I'm consistent.
Yeah.
So that's the other magic word.
Oh, okay.
This whole thing
Clarity, consistency.
Clarity and consistency, right?
So would you say that today, the content, whether it is the website, the socials, the email marketing, all of that, the advertising campaigns, it holds the same weight in terms of importance as building the core, the story, the look? Because if you have that without this, or could I be wrong?
So that totally wrong, because that part, let's talk about the baby again.
Let's talk about the
So
baby.
if the baby is still in the womb and hasn't been birthed yet, we can't see it. We certainly can't have content about it.
Mm.
It doesn't exist yet. So there is a first step, and that first step is the core. That has to be developed first. That is the foundation on which the house is built. So social is advertising, marketing, I don't care what you want to call it, content, all of those things where you're putting it out into the world, you have to already have something to put out there. So if you don't have the fleshed out baby,
Yeah.
you are putting out parts. You're putting out an arm, you're putting out a leg, you're putting out, like, it's not going to make any sense.
Mm.
You can do a lot of things. Whether it's effective or not is
Is the other question. Yeah.
so you can do all these other things in other ways. You're wasting your time and your energy and maybe money if you're not doing it. If you're doing it yourself, it's still somebody's paying. You're paying your own time. So it's a little cart before the horse thing. It's like, yeah, sure, we could do that, but why would you? You have to figure this part out first, because it will change how you're representing it when you want to explain it to the world.
Yeah. So it's more of the how can I say it? As you said, it's the cart before the horse, but the cart is important, the horse is important.
They're
So
both
if you
important.
yeah, okay.
Okay, you have a cart, and if you don't have a horse pulling it,
Exactly.
nobody's
What's the
going to know
point?
about it. So once you have the cart, then you need the horse to move it forward. So it's like all that outward movement, website, ads, social media, email marketing, product days, or whatever, that's the horse that's moving you forward. But you have to
have the cart, the core.
the cart. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, Michelle, here's a question. So we
I'm so
talked,
full of stories, right?
yeah, of course. But I mean, you're telling us and you're putting so much weight, of course, on the business and the brand, but you're also the human element of it, which is either the founder or there's a someone
Yeah.
who, to humanize. There is that human element, which is also as important from what you've been telling us. So do you think that this means that while you're building your company's brand, you should also build your personal brand, or do they come together?
So, first of all, in this world, no matter what you feel about it, we have all been branded. It's kind of a thing now. So, a personal brand, especially if you are a business owner and you're a vibrant, active part of that business,
Mm.
right? Then your personal brand affects your business brand. It's highly unlikely that your personal brand is like ultra luxury and you're selling dollar store stuff, right? That doesn't equate.
Yeah.
So your personal brand is something so specific that I have a process for it that is amazing, because at the end of it, people are like, it's right. Oh my God, how did you do that? It's a little bit of magic, right? So if you have a personal brand that is well thought out, so I will out myself right now. My personal brand is genuine bold.
Mhm. But
Makes
that makes sense. That
it
makes
makes
sense.
sense. So out of like 700 words, I chose these 2 words to represent me. And I actually do the exercise myself every year just to see if I've changed,
Mm.
if I need to update it. And every year I'm like, nope, I'm good. This is fine. I'm good. So when I do this exercise with people and they're always saying, oh wait, there's more. And like they have all these words to choose from. And we get through it. At the end, they're always just like, huh, I
It
never
makes
knew.
sense. Yeah.
You're right. So they are going through their house. They're going through their clothes. They're going through how they cut their hair. They're going through the colors that they choose for their car. They're going through it's like, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense now, because that's the other thing about branding. A brand director cannot create a brand for you. I have to create it with you. If I create it, it's my brand. It's
Yeah.
my
It's your
yeah,
perspective of the person.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So unless that business owner participates deeply, fully, emotionally, physically, if they do not participate 100% in deciding about their brand, it is going to not be their brand.
I agree. I
So
agree.
just like we talk about the baby again, it's like a hey mama, or what do you guys call it?
I,
Doula. A
the
doula.
doula. Yes.
Doula. Hey mama is German. So
Oh,
a doula, I don't even know what it is in English. So it's like, so the doula is the one who helps you birth it. It's like that person is there to show you, okay, now you breathe. Now
mm,
you think about it. Now you sit down, wait, be calm. Like it's going to be okay. Now you got to hurry up. It's like that person brings you through these birthing steps that will birth your brand.
mm,
We're back
exactly.
to the baby. We're back to the baby.
We're back to the baby, because the baby represents a lot of things. Your business
Yeah.
is your baby. The brand is also a baby. It takes
Yes.
time for it to grow, and
Yeah.
you add to your process, after all of the socials and the website and all of the content. You put something called special, and the special has, the unique, you call it your unique focus. So it
Right.
could be anything from a course, a speaking gig, an event, a book.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't website and social and email enough? Do you think a
Yeah.
special has to be there?
It's not that you finish it, it's that you start evolving towards it.
So
It's like,
that's the folder which you call the evolve folder. That's
yeah,
where you go
exactly.
there.
Well,
Okay.
but the special is, okay, you want to do events? Do you have one planned? What can we do to create that event? So, for instance, I have one of my clients who actually her event is this Saturday, and it's the first event she's doing. And she's got a table, she's a coach and she's got a table and stuff. And she's like, what do I do? I'm like,
Mm.
okay, you're a one-on-one coach, right? You have a table. Get rid of the table. You're a one-on-one coach. Why wouldn't you want two chairs, like a vignette of like you speaking to one person? Putting a table between you and the people coming up to you is already a block, right? She was like, oh my
Mm.
God, why didn't I think of that? I'm like, well, that's what I do. So it's like evolving, making her this idea for a vignette sort of setting and how to invite people in. So she'll have like her little set that is on all of her social media, right?
Mm.
So she's building her set. So people will walk around with this silk palm frond now that just has her website on it, right?
Mm.
Great. It's not going to be a business card someone's going to throw in the bottom of that bag they get,
And
right?
forget about it.
Exactly. It's kind of like you'll see, and then people will see people walking around with those friends. And where'd you get that? What is that? It's, it. You've been to those events. You know what that's like. So it's like trying to develop different ways out of the box to help someone, especially a one-on-one entrepreneur that is just starting, that is a coach, that is like, how do you start a coaching business where you're going to do trips, right?
Mm.
She's doing, so it's like, okay, well then let's focus on, so I'm bombarding her with all these Italian
Yeah.
videos and stuff like that. So she's
No,
starting
no,
to do,
but she translated
yeah,
where you just
yeah.
said. She
And that's
translated from the image, from the story into
exactly,
the
exactly.
event.
And that's the thing for me too. I am not married to what I express, right? I give you the information, I give you the inspiration. I am not hurt or offended if you don't use it. It's to help you expand and help you to provide. And I'm always looking for it. Like all of my clients eventually get an Instagram message or something from me. And I'm like, you should be trying this. Why don't you do something like this? It's like, it's from my family. My dad, so my grandfather used to take newspaper clippings, there were 7 children, so, and everybody worked at the company. He would put their initials, and then they would pass this article around, and they had to check off after they've read
The
the
article.
article and give it back to him, that he made sure everybody read that article. My uncles, or my father used to do it to me all the time. I still have an uncle. Every birthday card I get, every Christmas card I get has a little article in it with like my initials on the top of it. it's like it's ingrained in the family, right? So I'm doing it in the modern way of IG, right? Here, look at this, look at that. Did you see this? What about that? What about this one? So it's,
I love it. I
yeah.
love it. Michelle, I want to kind of ask you a couple of questions before I already taken so much of your time. I wanna kind of like make go through a full circle with this because we started with the cookie cutters. So Michelle, in this process where you're doing the exercise of a brand and a personal brand, can you tell us more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So it's kind of a new fun thing I started.
Ah, okay,
It's
yes, okay.
it's a mini magic workshop. So what I do is I do a live brand audit. So whatever it is that the client comes to me with, we take a look at where they are right now.
Mm.
There's nothing like a live brand audit with Michelle, who is super direct and like will bust you on everything, right? So I will go in and go, oh, look, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't have the same. You need a background here. So it's really great because you get a very quick, thorough brand audit, which
Mm.
is, oh my God, that's awesome, right? Then we talk about a little bit of your vision. Like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go with this? Like, have you thought about your 5-year plan? Have you thought about what's next? And so if the person then outs himself to like, I would like to do events, or I'd like to write a book. And then I'm like, okay, so then we talk about how would you go about that? What are the next steps for that? What are the things that you need to do that? And then how are you going to market that? How that can incorporate into what you're doing now? And then we do the 2-word brand, which is the personal branding, right?
Mm.
So it's an exercise. It's actually a packet that I sit there with you together and we go through, and we do this either in person at the Magic House in Florida or on a Zoom call.
On a Zoom
Not as
call.
fun, just as good. Because as you can see, I translate very well on camera.
Yes,
So,
you do.
right. So, but if you are local or if you are in Florida, it's definitely an option to do it live. So what we do is we go through step by step this 2-word exercise. And without giving away a lot, we go through and we find a core word and we find an edge word. And we look at the definitions of words. We look at what does the word really mean? Are there any other things that express you? And so when you go through this process of somebody being like, okay, now out of that group of words, choose 5. And you're like, no, that's like impossible. And you sit down and you do it. Like we talk about, well, this and this are kind of the same. So pick one. Then this and
Mm.
this, that doesn't really seem like you, right? That's like aspirational. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's get rid of that. So it's a step-by-step working through till we get to the end where you have the 2-word brand. Like I said, mine is genuine bold. I would love to do it with you sometime.
Please.
So
And now I don't know if I have like
you
2
do.
words.
You
There's
have it. Don't
one.
worry. You have it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yes, yes. So when you get through all of this at the end, they have their 2-word brand. And I have had clients who are, I would say, very savvy and very into it. And they're like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I have clients who are very aloof and a little
Mm.
bit relaxed. And they're like, wow, that's really true. Like I have had all kinds of examples, but it always deeply gets them to the point where this is really who I am.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you chose it. I didn't make you choose it. You chose it. We went there together. It's a path, but you come down to it. So I do this before. So then you have this mini workshop. It's 3
Yes.
hours,
Okay.
and you have this. And then if you choose to go, that is a taste of what the big branding sessions are like. So if
Mm.
you do decide then to go for the major sessions, then I subtract the amount for that mini workshop off your main.
You know,
Uh,
I wanna go back to the workshop. I really like that. I really think, and I mean, we take that even at uni when we were, it's like there has to be a checkup, a brand checkup that everybody should do, whatever the size of the business is,
yes,
even if it's a one-man show, but kind of business.
yes, yes,
The audit is something that is very healthy and important for any business
yes,
owner. to
Yeah.
do. And even if you are, your business is basically public speaking. So,
Yeah.
if you're a thought leader,
That's huge.
it is an
That's
honor.
huge.
Yeah.
You have to be in the right, like I need to be able to Google you and it has to be right because
Yes.
that's part of your credibility. So that's what this brand audit is. So like when I'll ask somebody, have you ever done a brand audit? No. How many years have you been in business? 5. When was the last time you looked at your website? And they're like, 5 years ago. And I
When I created it.
yeah. And you're like, I bet you're not even selling the same. I bet there's 5 broken links. I bet you're not even selling the same product. I bet there's missing pictures. I bet there's not a contact page. I bet it's like because I'm in the business, when I am on someone's site, when I'm looking for something and I see errors, I email them and tell them, do you know that you're missing your main picture or this or that? I can't help myself. It's like it's a business and you are not representing yourself well. These are the shingles to the world. Your credibility as a fill in the blank, right? Whatever you are, your credibility is tied together with your digital presence. You might have a building with your name on it. Maybe you still have a digital presence that has to equal whatever you got in the real world. And this digital world is the real world. Have you tried the VR headsets yet?
No.
They're like $5,000, $4,000.
No.
Like I guess they're like, it's like something in Star Trek. It's just
Okay.
it's
I'm
like
not even interested.
but that's where we're going.
Yeah.
Between AI and all these things. Like I am excited about the future. I am excited for these new tools. Can they be used for evil? Everything can be used for evil.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm excited by the opportunities and by the changes that are going to happen from this. I mean, COVID just ticked us over into a VR age. I don't know what we're going to call this age, the AI age, which is really funny because in German it's K-I, but I is pronounced E, so it's K-I.
K-I.
So when I talk to people and they're like, she's like, I'm like, did you do AI yet? She's like, K-I? And I was like, AI? K-I? She's like, yeah, K-I. You know?
But here's a question. Since you opened the topic of
AI.
the new digital thing, will that replace, or do you think it's going to be something not replace, but something that is the great tool to build your brand? Because everybody's like, oh, there's chat GPT and everything, and I've used it, and I mean, I admit it helps a lot. It saves you time when you're
Right, but
researching everything,
it's
but it
still
doesn't have my
still
voice as much as I
garbage. It's
prompted.
still garbage in, garbage out. So it
Yeah.
still depends on what prompt you give it and what tone you ask it, and you have to train it to speak in your tone.
Yeah.
It's right now it's a remedial product, right? It's someday it can do other things. Right now, it can be a great help. It can be a great help.
Yeah, it saves time. Yeah, it saves you
It can be a
time.
great help filling out those content buckets, right?
Yes.
So you can utilize AI for a lot of things, but you are still prompting it. You are still giving it the kernel of truth that you want it to work with.
I love that. I love that. Can we go back to the exercises that you do in the audit? Because the audit just blew my mind. I
Okay.
love this, and it's a very doable audit because it's a 3-hour workshop. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And
you
that's
can do
what,
that.
that's
That's
what
easy.
this was. This is like a stepping stone to give you a mini impression of what it's like to work on your brand, to work within the session. And then
Yeah.
like you fall in love and you're like, okay, sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's a session that is important enough that it should be done. As we said, it's a checkup that somebody
Yeah,
has to do at least every 18 months or something like that.
absolutely.
But what I really like about this is how the audit goes from the vision and the mission and the story, but then it kind of takes you through the exercise of the two-word brand. And I feel like when you were talking, and then I know your two-word brand, I feel like just by knowing the two-word brand, a lot of things become easy. Like if I'm writing something for my podcast, I
Yeah,
have the two-word brand, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I go back to, it's the mirror that you hold up, right?
Oh,
It's the
yes.
mirror that you hold up. Where we're gonna do Raina there. There you go. It's the mirror that we hold up that says, "Is this the brand? Is
Mm.
this the brand? Yes. Yay. Go forward. Is this the brand? No. Put it away. Put it in your evolve file.
When is it time to open that evolve fire?
When
Like after you've ticked
you will
what?
know it. You will know. You're looking for a new idea. You're looking for a new inspiration. You open the evolve file, whether it's digital or physical. You can also get yourself a pretty box and throw pictures in it or something. I mean, like, you can make that evolve file anything you want it, but it is a Urspring. It's a fountain of inspiration. You get to a point, you're like, oh, I need an idea. So you open up the evolve file and you start going through all the, I guarantee you get through halfway and you already know what you want to do.
Mm.
It might be something not even in the evolve file, but something's snapped and you got the idea. So it's a way to hold on to those ideas, right? Hold on to all the ideas, because that's the thing that freaks people out the most. Well, what if I don't, I'll lose it. It's like, no, don't lose it. Just put it here. It's not gone. It's there forever, right? Put it in the cloud and you have it.
You have it.
When you
Yeah,
need
it's
it,
like if you need an idea or you know you're ready for something more, your business has reached to a level, your
but
brand.
writers do this too, where
Mm.
they keep all these little ideas for characters and things like that in a way, and then when they're stuck, they can pull them out and just start reading them and be like, oh, okay, there's an idea. We think that ideas are, okay, here's another thing. We think ideas are linear. So I have another thing called the idea hurricane.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, so you also get to do, and I should have mentioned, you also get to do an idea hurricane at the mini workshop. So an
Okay.
idea hurricane is a little bit different way of making a list for a specific project.
Mm.
If you are like most people, you make a list, like I have a list, right? It's linear. I draw lines through it when it's done. And it hurts because I can't do one below. I have to do the next thing on the list. And if I don't want to, I'm sort of paralyzed until tomorrow when I can rewrite the list in a different order.
Mm, that's true. It
Releasing
happens.
myself from the pain of that one point, and I can put it further down so that I don't have to deal with it. So an idea hurricane basically has you put a due date, so
Okay.
something that has a due date in the center. And then like the sun, it has petals, radiant sun. Like, I will actually send you the PDF for the idea hurricane and you can give it to your listeners.
Oh, wow.
So
Thank you.
it is, yeah, so you have the core of the idea, the date. Then you have a sun with panes like sticking out.
Mhm.
And so at the top you write down what the subject is. So if the subject is event, and the event happens April 25th, so you put April 25th. So what are the things I have to do for the event? I have to send out invites. I have to wash the tablecloth. I have to iron the tablecloth. I have to order the food. I have to get the results from the invitations. I have to buy decorations. I have to buy flowers. I have to clean the house. So you go through each one of these sections of the sun, right? And put down the things. And as you're done, you can color in the different things that you've done. So it almost becomes an artwork because
Mm.
you're coloring in. I always have to make it pretty. So you're coloring in the pieces that are done. And if you're only half done, so color it in halfway, right? So, and if you're like, oh, I forgot, and there's no more spaces. So you divide a line in between and you make it so it's like there'll be thin lines, there'll be thick lines, there'll be different. So you put down all the things that are involved by this date, and it frees you from thinking linearly. I
Yeah.
can't even say it.
Linear.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not going to try it again. So it forces you to like be open. And
Mm.
you're like, well, I could do that. Okay. Well, I could do that. It lets you be free. It lets you be free. So this idea hurricane is also something that we do at the Magic House. But I'll give it to you guys for free.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I can't wait. I want to do that because that is an amazing way when you're um working on, on especially in your
Yeah,
outline, which is the website and the social and everything.
yeah.
And sometimes you're like, I need to work on the website, I need to update that page, but it's more fun,
Right.
to do something
Or
for
but if you
TikTok.
have to, right, you have to work on the page, but you're gonna need information from something else, and that's not gonna be until Wednesday. So it's like, what else could I do? I could go in and fix my background on LinkedIn. That's
Yes.
easy, right? That's fun. So it's like it gives you the freedom of doing this. So you can have more than one. So that what we do at the Magic House is I have brown craft paper that I put on the dining room table, and we draw them very big on the table. And you'll see some, if you go to my website, you'll see some pictures of the idea hurricane happening in real time. Um, I post it sometimes on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
But it is like the one client I did with three, she had three things going, like three major things going on. So we did three different ones. So we roll up the paper at the end, and she took it and put it up in her office at home. Like, it's kind of it's just a different, I mean, you've seen mind mapping before, and I'm
Yes.
always struggling with lists. And that kind of happened. That was a happy accident of how we created it and started using it. And it is so good.
You know, I really like. I mean, everybody who's listening or watching know we're friends, so I know your style and type, your
Yeah.
way of work, approach to work, and what I really love about this is that, and I'm going to be really honest, okay? When I talk to when I have a discovery call or I talk to a potential client, most of them fear working with a brand strategist, a branding coach, anything to do with branding and communication and
Yeah.
marketing. And they fear it because it is just, other than it's complex, they don't understand it. It's something where they cannot touch. They don't see the full picture. They cannot touch it. And a lot of things are mysterious for them, and they don't get the relation of how this would impact their business, their image,
Mhm,
everything.
mhm.
But what I really like about your approach is that it is actually fun. I mean, all of your information will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
And thank you again for the idea hurricane. We'll definitely put a link to that, and your website, and also you can find Michelle on Instagram. But your approach, other than being bold, is that it is also an approach which is,
It's also
um,
genuine. It's
it's
also
it's
genuine.
yeah, it's genuine, and it's attainable. Like,
Yeah.
you make it attainable for the people who work with you, because the process is fun, but not fun in a, it's fun
Well,
in the sense that it makes sense.
right. So let's bring it back
Yeah.
to couture, right?
Yes, please.
Being at the fashion show, choosing number three. I want number three. And of course, the model that is modeling number three is a size zero, and she looks fabulous. And I picked that outfit. I don't know if you can tell, I'm not a size zero. So they have to now make this for me, right?
Mm.
And that process, they don't embarrass the customer because she can't fit into the size zero. They want to sell that $5,000 outfit. So they're like, to suit you, this is what we're going to do to make this personally you. We're going to change the hemline. We're going to change the bust line. We're going to change the, and this will be more suited to you. And that's what I do. It's like, I'm not there to tell someone they're wrong. All the things that you've already done with your brand or wherever you're at. It is what it is. I'm very practical, right? On that sense. So whatever exists at the time you made it, you were making it with the best intentions and the best
Mm.
decisions possible. Now, in where you're at, you have new intentions and new decisions to make in the best situation possible. So I think that helps with some of the anxiety and fear of being told everything I've done is wrong. Everything I've spent money on is wrong. Now I'm going to have to spend all new money on a whole new thing. No, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Baby, we're back to the baby again. So it's like, it's it's being understanding to people, and it's genuine. I'm not fake in any way, right? So I don't have airs of like, well, I sold couture and I'm like la di da di da. No, I also sold mass merchant. Like I sold train loads of polo shirts. Like so for $3 each, right? So I've been in both places. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're selling fur coats or motor oil. You need to know the customer. You need to know what the product is, and then you can sell it. So that's all we're trying to do, is to find out where you're at in the river right now and how we can better give you the tools to go where you want to go. Maybe you don't want to go down the river. You want to build a bridge and get on the other side. Then we build a bridge and get on the other side. So some people want to go on the river. Some people want to go in the air. Some people want to, it's like, it depends. That's why I come to, there's no cookie cutter, because it really depends on where the brand is at the time. What they've done in the past is not wrong. It's just time to update. And so that is the kernel of what you're talking about, where they're like, what is that apprehension? That apprehension is, everything I've done is wrong. All the money I've spent is wrong. No, it's not.
It got you, and now you want to go somewhere. Exactly.
And now it's like, it's where we are now. Okay, so where do you want to go? Is this where you want to go? Well, then stay there. But that's not why you're here. You're here because you want to go somewhere. Exactly. So that's the thing. It's like, you're not wrong for what you've done. You're not wrong for the money you've spent. You maybe could have spent it in better ways. We all have stories about how we could have spent the money in a better way.
All of us. Yes.
Remember my story about buying the stupid plastic stuff from China in the middle of the night? Right. So I would love to get those back. Somehow we need an app that stops me from doing that. Okay. Do not let me buy between 12:30 p.m. and 6 a.m.
There should be like, the buttons don't work.
That's what I need. I need a setting, because I won't go into settings and change it because I don't have my glasses on, so I won't be able to figure it out. So it's like, I need an app that does that. So whoever's doing apps, do that. You'll make money.
I love that. I love that.
Right.
Michelle, I wanna close with something about your brand, your work, your story, your product. You have international experience. I mean, you've worked in Europe and the US. I love how you said, from the Arctic Circle to Africa. You've been everywhere. So when you're building a brand, and it's not on a global level, do you see any similarities if you are someone who is now based in France, in terms of building a brand? Are there any similarities to someone who's in the Middle East, to someone who's in Japan, or someone in the US? From your experience, there are similarities and differences. How would you?
So right, that
the
goes
struggle.
Back to,
is the struggle the same? Is the
exactly.
Yeah.
So that goes back to my cultural messages. It's like, if you're in a area, like I am in the United States right now, so I'm speaking as an American with American experience. When I can speak as an international citizen of the world, it depends on the country I'm in learning about how to do things, especially so if you want to pick France, there's a different attitude about business. There's a different method. Basically, it's the same, but you have to put those cultural glasses on. We just had the eclipse. Everybody had eclipse glasses. So you have to put your French glasses on. Right. And if you're going to do something in UAE, you have to put your UAE glasses on. You have to be able to put the cultural glasses on for where you're at. And that requires a little bit of research, and that requires also experience in that area. And personally, for me, because I've had experiences, my area was Europe, Australia, and the Middle East. How that all works together, I don't know. But
I love it.
lot of travel. So you have to, because of the connections you have, yes, you have to do research. Everything requires research. So when I'm starting these projects with people, they have homework. They're like if you go in my main branding sessions, it's like, here's your homework. I don't meet every week. I meet every other week, because you need time to research stuff. You know, how many times people don't even know who their competition is, right? Or what the other products are out there. Like, who else is doing what you're doing? Listen, Wendy's and McDonald's, they build across the street from each other because that's where the customer is. It doesn't matter. It's not competition. That's where there's business. Yay, you should build an Arby's over there too, because that's where the people are eating, right? So it's not a bad thing to have competition. You need to be your different flavor. You need to be the honest, direct person and brand that you are. That will get you your clients that love you, that want to buy from you, as opposed to the other guys. So you need to do research. You need to put your cultural glasses on for the specific culture, and don't be afraid of competition.
I love that. Don't be afraid of competition. And at the end, it kind of sums it up. You go back to the heartbeat of the brand. It's a story.
Yeah.
It's a story.
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you so much. Again, all of the information about Michelle and how you can reach her and connect with her and follow her is going to be in the show notes. Thank you once again for sharing with us Idea Hurricane. I'm gonna be the person.
Right over.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And thank you so much for your time and for just guiding us on this really fun and enlightening journey about the importance of
and
not following the cookie cutter.
Right, exactly. And I'm very passionate about branding. I think it's fun. I'm an Aries, so I like new things. So people are like, why do you do that? Well, because I get to put on all these different brands. Like, I become that brand. I become like a chameleon, and I think what this brand is doing. So, and then the next day I have a different brand, and the next day I have a different brand. So yes, I'm doing the same thing over and over again, but it's so radically different, and it's with different people, and they have different objectives, and they have different energies, right? I think energy is another point that you have to bring into this. It's like you have to have an empathetic way of accepting what people are saying. Liaison is a word that I always used in my resumes back in the day, right? When we had resumes, I've always been a liaison of some sort, of bringing two groups together and explaining what one group needs to the other group. And so basically that's still what I'm doing, right? Is I'm still communicating one idea from someone to another, what they're doing and how that affects them. So brand liaison, that was for a while. Instead of brand director, I was like brand liaison, but nobody can spell it. So
yeah. Let's be specific. Yeah, words important. Thank you so much. I am opening the Evolve file. I'm going to create an Evolve file on my Dropbox.
So a keyword brand. I'd love to do that with you.
I would love that. I would love that. Michelle, thank you so much for your time. And I hope I'll have you again and we can discuss more in detail other stuff. But thank you so much for today's interview.
Take care. Bye.
Sadly, I have to wrap up my conversation with Michelle. I do hope that you found her insights as enlightening as I did. Now, in a nutshell, we explored the importance of finding the perfect fit in branding, emphasizing that a couture style approach over a cookie cutter formula to achieve unique outcomes for businesses of all sizes. Now, I love how Michelle shed light on the significance of storytelling when it comes to branding, underscoring its role as the heartbeat of a brand. If you'd like to connect with Michelle or learn more about her mini magic workshop, the live brand audit, be sure to check out the links in the show notes. I've put everything over there. And of course, I did not forget the free download, the Idea Hurricane. Thank you once again, Michelle, for sharing that with us. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Let's Make Waves podcast. Until next time, keep shining and keep making waves. Bye.